Welcome to episode 14 of Fatherhood in Focus. And as we continue on our journey about paternity leave and maternity leave and the impact that it can have on you, the family dynamic and your partner, we're going to talk finances, childcare, some of the things that we often overlook when we're about to have or plan a family. Now listen, this is all from my own experience and I'm not some sort of financial advisor. What I want to do is just give you some hints and tips on the importance of being financially savvy in this particularly difficult time. So in this episode, we're going to bring to light the true financial impact and how your family's budget deficit after maternity leave can contribute to the pressure at home and even stop her from returning to work. We had a deficit first time round and my wife needed to go back to work. Second time around, the deficit wasn't as much of a problem, in part because we'd just gone through COVID. And that meant we'd had an extended period of time where our eldest just wasn't at nursery. So we were able to squirrel away some cash. It was a unique time, hopefully never to be repeated, but it did give us some breathing space, meaning the overall cost wasn't as obscene. In today's episode, we're going to focus on the impact of the financial deficit, making time to discuss the budget and her personal aspirations, the cost of childcare and planning her return to work, and what to do if she can't return to work for financial reasons. In most cases, an extended period without full pay is going to create a budget deficit, and as her partner, you need to be aware of both the financial and emotional impact of her maternity leave and how together they can affect your family dynamic. A budget deficit, no matter how small, can have an impact on a number of things, including her decision to return to work full-time, her ability to return to work at all, and your collective ability to navigate childcare costs and how they can erode the overall financial contribution you both make and the stability of the family unit. One of the biggest challenges often overlooked is the impact of childcare and its impact on the financial status of new parents. For many, the cost of childcare actually stops mum from returning to work, and you need to be alive and empathetic to that issue. Once she's settled into motherhood, there is a very real possibility that your financial position might never ease, even if she returns to work, and it might actually get worse. So things to consider may include her salary not covering the full cost of childcare, and therefore she's faced with the decision to either cut back her hours to reduce that financial burden of childcare or stop working altogether. The fact that the budget deficit increased during her maternity leave makes it more difficult for her to return to work. For the purposes of this episode though, we're focused on the fact that mum is the primary caregiver. Whilst shared parental leave is available, and as dads we are taking more of an active role in raising our children, the reality is that we remain in a minority when it comes to taking primary care for our kids during these formative years. That is why, when you assess the impact of having children, you must consider the financial impact of the childcare arrangements. The consequence of her decision to take her full maternity leave might not actually be felt immediately, especially if you're financially prepared. However, like most of us, if you are surviving on a single salary, a reduced maternity package and have limited savings, then the immediate shortfall is going to be difficult to navigate. This of course will also have an impact on her status as a working mother once maternity is over. Now, if you are in that fortunate position of being more financially comfortable during this time, due to the personal circumstances or a favourable maternity policy, then any financial deficit might reduce quickly. Remember though, her decision to return to work might not be within her control. As her partner, you've got to be aware of how sacrificing her career may impact you, baby, and importantly her confidence, well-being and autonomy. Should you fail to empathise with the challenges she faces, you might find conflict arising between you on a regular basis. And that is why it's critical that you understand the financial and emotional sacrifice placed on you both when planning a family. It is clear that she will sacrifice more, and whilst it might feel like she's comfortable with the path she's taken, understanding the financial cost that might be influencing that decision will help you better support her during what will potentially be a really difficult time. It took us almost 18 months to get back on track, and once back on track, we focused on saving money in order to reduce the financial strain attached to baby number 2. Obviously, your financial status might change from year to year when considering any increase in pay or bonus entitlement, but that change in status shouldn't detract from the financial planning and risk assessment that accompanies your parenting journey. Ultimately, you will continue on your path, but the financial hit might just stop her career in its tracks. And while she will get to spend more time with your children, she will lose her autonomy. And that, for some, is a bitter pill to swallow. My friend, the reality is her maternity package will never be sufficient to cover the true cost of bringing a family into the world. And your collective goal is to limit the impact of this period as best you can, without sacrificing her career in the long run, especially if it is her intention to return to work. In today's crazy climate, and with financial insecurity rife, everyone should have an eye on the financial cost of bringing a baby into the world, and everyone should be clear on the emotional cost that it can have on the short-term security of your family. The added financial pressure can create a divide, and a divided family will struggle to make the key decisions together. This period of transition requires effective communication and the ability to prioritise what is important without losing sight of the sacrifices made by everyone involved. Making time to discuss the budget and her personal aspirations is crucial. If this conversation hasn't taken place, then it has to be your priority. Sit her down and understand her intention. Your objective isn't just to understand her, but it's also to recognise, before she's able to make that decision, there are influences outside her control which may stop her from stepping back into the workplace. These are the things that will erode her confidence and leave her feeling conflicted, perhaps not now, but certainly as your children get older. There are a key set of questions you must answer in the lead up to the latter stages of maternity, and preferably you should be clear on the impact of her maternity before you sit down to understand her next steps. The key questions are: does she want to return to work? Does she need to return to work? Is it financially viable for her to return to work? Are there obstacles to her returning to work? Is there a role available that will provide the flexibility she may want if she does return? You see, making a baby and having one is the easy bit. The long-term financial stability of the family is an issue that you've got to address. As a partner, you need to understand her maternal drive and recognise any future obstacles that might prevent her from fulfilling her need to be present and engaged. In my view, you both need to answer the questions before baby arrives, but it is never too late to have this conversation. The answers to these questions are going to shape how you both navigate the challenges ahead, and this is your chance to create a non-judgmental space for open dialogue. You will need to share your view and be supportive of her view. You will both need to express your hopes, concerns, and expectations freely, and fundamentally, you need to understand her plan and the financial impact of paternity leave, if you have it, and her maternity, and the true cost of childcare. Part of planning for her maternity is understanding her future plan. If she's a career-focused woman, then that might not change after baby has arrived. However, the financial hit of maternity, closely followed by the massive costs associated with childcare, can stop her returning. You have to be ready for this because her career and everything she has worked for up to this point is on the line. And if you fail to see the importance of this, then you may expose your relationship to unnecessary conflict. The same can be said if her dream is to be a stay-at-home mum. After an expensive maternity leave, which has left you financially drained, she might need to return to work just to get you both back on track. The challenge will be whether or not that return is possible and whether it is financially viable. This is a tricky stage in your parenting journey and your relationship. It requires trust, flexibility, and it demands that both parties engage in and understand the plan. Once the dialogue begins, it's important to talk about it regularly and adapt it as circumstances evolve during the lead up to baby's arrival, throughout paternity and maternity. This is your chance to sit down and build a partnership that is focused on working to build the best future for your family. Now let's think about the cost of childcare and planning her return to work. Before she returns, you have to have a very clear view on the financial cost. You can do that by reviewing your income and expenses, and importantly plan for any increase in expenses should she return to work. Your role here is not just to provide financial support, but to actively participate in crafting a budget that accommodates the changes in income. Understanding the financial landscape together allows you to plan effectively, mitigating potential stresses associated with her return. The first thing you've got to do, got to understand your options and assess whether or not there is going to be suitable childcare or a support network available to you both. My partner and I don't have local support. This means between us we're often covering any shortfall in childcare or any unexpected events that prevent us putting the kids into school or nursery. Yes, we've had support from family, but you can't just call on them when you need them every time. For us, locality was critical, and depending on your location, you need to be ready to wait for your place at nursery. And that's why it's so important to get a deposit paid early and secure a place ahead of her return to work. As part of your research, be clear on the daily, weekly and monthly cost, and research any entitlement to free childcare and at what point it becomes available. This research will help you gain a clear picture and establish if she will be able to return full time or in a reduced capacity. Look, her employer won't provide much education on this topic, and working out whether you qualify or not for financial support can be really complicated. Therefore, prepare early and research as best you can. Use any local support networks or government websites. One of the biggest challenges is understanding any free entitlement and how you qualify. If you're in the position to secure that additional funding, you need to understand how it might support your partner's return to work. You will also need to understand what impact a salary increase or a one-off bonus might have on your ability to qualify for the entitlement. Look, it's not just the financial cost of childcare. You've got to be flexible. You need to be able to manage any shortfall in childcare should baby be ill or the nursery or childcare provider shut for any unforeseen circumstances. Let's not ignore the fact that finding suitable, trustworthy, inexpensive and reliable childcare can be a daunting task. Don't just leave it to her. As a new family, balancing the demands of work and a busy schedule, you have to have evaluated the following: the cost per day and the financial support available. How are you going to integrate baby into a new environment? The proximity to your work, home, and if you're commuting, a train station, or if it's her route to work and she's driving, proximity to the local roads. You need to understand the opening hours and the associated costs of any additional wraparound care. You've got to evaluate the quality of care and how it's going to help your children develop. These factors won't be of interest to your employer, but the suitability and trustworthy nature of your chosen provider are going to go a long way to helping her get back up to speed. She will want her back to work transition to run as smoothly as possible. And as a partner, you want to encourage her to communicate with her employer. This is a crucial step, and it's important that she has the opportunity to highlight how she will manage juggling both work, drop off and pick up. As a partner, it's important that you recognise her financial contribution to the family. This will be important to her, especially if she's working but seeing little payment because of the cost of childcare. My wife and I navigated the early challenges we faced with research, planning and flexibility. Whilst there were plenty of hurdles to overcome, communication with her employer on her commitments was crucial to the success of the first few weeks. One of the biggest things you can do is evaluate income and expenses. The financial stability is going to be key to you both, and once the maternity pay period is ended, you will both want to understand the monthly impact of her not returning to work and consider the cost of childcare should she want to return to work. The objective is to understand whether the cost of childcare is going to stop her from returning to work. With so much to consider, it's worth investing time in getting to grips with your finances and, where possible, budgeting to reduce the overall impact of baby's arrival. The childcare cost can catch you out, and depending on your location, any entitlement to free care may not be activated until you meet certain criteria. This can have a massive impact on your partner's ability to return, and this impact isn't limited to the financial pain. A massive factor in a mother's return to work is the financial, emotional and logistical considerations surrounding her childcare arrangements. As a partner, you need to engage in the conversation early and quantify the financial impact of the childcare costs and her maternity leave. The latter can have a dramatic impact on the family finances, as we've said, and can result in her making concessions and deciding only to return to work part-time, or even choosing to put her career on hold. As highlighted earlier, as a partner, you need to understand her maternity policy, the cost of her maternity, and how it's going to financially impact you both in the short term. Not only that, but you also need to think about the emotional cost of her not returning to work and be very clear on the impact of her decision. It is also important to factor in any financial support available, and if it is available, how that will look both logistically and financially. By getting a clear picture of the financial cost of her returning to work, you can help support her making an informed decision. Remember, the financial cost is often prohibitive, and as a result, she might not be afforded the choice to return to work because there will be little financial incentive attached to doing so. So, what if she can't return to work because she's financially restricted? As I write this, my partner and I have just been having a conversation about the importance of financial planning, especially in today's uncertain climate. As she prepared to return to work, we faced a financial deficit where her maternity leave depleted all our savings, and we needed that second income to cover the costs of the mortgage and the bills. The challenge we faced was weighing up the overall cost of her return and whether or not her salary would cover the outgoings once our childcare was included. We faced a challenging period financially, but we made it work, and eventually we got back on track. The problem faced is that for many, the option to return is taken away. Ultimately, the cost of childcare and the financial hole left by her maternity results in her decision not to return. See, the challenge faced isn't just about whether or not her salary after tax is sufficient to cover the cost of childcare, but it's whether or not there's any money left over once childcare has been paid. If her salary leaves a surplus, then that decision to return is made easier. However, if her salary simply covers that cost of your childcare arrangements, then essentially she's working just to fund the childcare. If it is the latter, then she might be forced to choose between her career and independence and working for little financial return. To be blunt, this is an incredible sacrifice, and in most cases you could argue that her decision is simply taken away. The fact the decision is taken away means she's made a sacrifice during her maternity leave, and that sacrifice will have to continue until it becomes financially viable for her to return. And that could be between 5 and 6 years. If you've planned ahead and considered the overall cost of maternity and childcare, then you will know that once baby arrives, her sacrifice is just starting. The key is to understand early whether or not the cost of childcare is going to push her to stay at home. The objective is to be prepared, because this is a major blocker to her return. And whilst it is part of being a parent, you want your partner to have options. And in these circumstances, that choice just doesn't exist. The fact that she can't return for financial reasons can create massive conflict at home, because it reduces her ability to have the impact you both may have envisioned. Whilst her role is to be a source of love and warmth, her ability to continue her chosen career path will now be more difficult, which may result in more stress at home. She may feel conflicted with the decision to return taken away from her. She may begin to feel isolated. You see, the return to work isn't just about the emotional and logistical challenges. It's about the financial implications on her mental well-being, her confidence, her love for herself, her self-belief. Ultimately, her confidence and self-belief can negatively impact the family environment, and that is why you must approach the conversation about childcare with an open mind. Remember, she may have planned for this, but that doesn't mean the emotional strain won't take its toll. If the decision to return is removed, then the impact it has on her can impact you all. Understanding and navigating the financial challenges associated with childcare and her return to work are pivotal aspects of supporting her during this crucial period. As a partner, your role extends beyond being a financial contributor. It involves actively engaging in transparent discussions, careful planning, and empathetic consideration of the potential stresses. Researching childcare options, evaluating income and expenses, and being prepared for any financial deficit during maternity leave are the crucial steps. It is essential to recognise that the impact isn't solely about covering childcare costs. It extends to the emotional and logistical considerations that may influence her decision to return. Being proactive in understanding entitlements, potential financial support, and the impact of any salary changes or bonuses is vital. Transparent discussions about the overall cost of her returning to work should involve an exploration of both short and long-term financial implications for you, for her, for the family. Additionally, recognising the possibility that financial constraints may lead to her inability to return to work is crucial. The sacrifice she makes during maternity leave, coupled with the decision being taken away due to those financial restrictions, can create internal conflicts, stress, and that sense of isolation. This situation underscores the importance of early planning and open communication about childcare costs. Ultimately, by actively participating in financial discussions and supporting her through these challenges, you contribute not only to the stability of your family's finances, but also to her mental well-being, confidence, and her overall happiness. The key is to approach these conversations with sensitivity, understanding, and a shared commitment to finding solutions that work for both of you and the family as a whole. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your time and helping me support you. I think the reality is we're all in this unique situation where finances are probably the last thing that we think about. We want our partners to feel supported in the early days. We want her employer to give her a maternity policy that works. We want to ensure that the dynamic doesn't shift off the axis so that we are there. We are supporting. She is feeling that support. But my friend, overlooking the importance of her contribution financially, her contribution to her self-belief, her self-worth, not just as a mother, but as a working career woman, is so important. You owe it to her. She sacrificed so much to give you your children. We take a step back. We go to work. We get on with it. We provide for the family. That is our role. But we must be empathetic to the situation that she finds herself in as she starts to think about returning to work. Maternity leave payments, they just don't cover it. Okay? Yes, we make a choice as a family, as a unit, to have a child. But one person is losing out. That one person may lose out for a long period of time. Don't tell me that you haven't thought about it. Don't tell me that it doesn't stress you out, that there is a financial gap, that she can't provide, she can't add to the family pot. But remember, it isn't always her choice. At the early outset, before you had a baby, you'll have been having a conversation about your role, her role. You will be creating a family unit supposed to be built on strong foundations. Financially strong foundations are difficult in today's society. Credit cards, mortgages, rent, whatever it might be, bills. Everything is applying pressure to you and to her. But when it comes to childcare, the costs are so expensive. They block her return. They block her ability to choose to return. Now you can financially step up. You can say to her, yes, it's okay, I've got this covered. That creates pressure for you. And you're doing the thing, you're doing the man thing, you're solving the problem. And I respect that. I appreciate you for that. But consider the impact of losing your autonomy. Consider the impact of not being able to financially contribute to the family because the cost of childcare restricts it. That only impacts one person, it doesn't impact you. And yes, we are beginning to take up some of the childcare responsibility, some of that shared parental leave opportunity. But don't kid me. My wife sacrificed 1 year of her life, of her career, to raise our children. She did that twice. It's taken her even longer to get back on track after every baby. Yes, she's financially contributed, but we have always had the cost of childcare tripping us up. And as we move into a world where mortgage rates are higher, credit cards and debt are building up, and we are often living beyond our means, the deficit that maternity creates, the deficit that paternity may create, the deficit that childcare costs create, that's where the true pressure is. It's where your relationship can fall down, and it's where you've got to be switched on. The communication has got to be there, and you, my friend, have got to be aware of the sacrifice she's making. Thank you, as always, for listening. I appreciate that our journeys are unique. I recognise the strength and courage that you show, and I know how hard it is to balance all the challenges that fatherhood throws at us. This has been Fatherhood in Focus. Thank you for listening.